School changes everything. Camp was 9 days, then we had a few practices heading into week 1 where kids still weren't back in class yet. We had time. Now they're back, a full school day before they ever get to us, and we still have to lift, we still have to practice, we share facilities with other teams, and our locker room isn't necessarily a place we can get together and watch film in. Then these kids need to go home, they need dinner, they have homework, sleep, and recovery. So once school starts, we have to answer a real question. Where does the film room fit in? Because I don't think the answer is we just don't watch film anymore. And I don't think the answer is keeping a high school kid in the building for another 30 or 45 minutes every night either. For us, the answer has been building a virtual film room inside Just Play. We didn't cut the film room, we moved it. Welcome back to One Play at a Time, presented by Just Play on the Coach and Coordinator Network. When I coached at the Division III level, film was just built into the day. Depending on the school and the schedule, maybe we met at lunch, maybe early in the morning, maybe there was a window in the afternoon before practice, but we were going to have that session, 20 to 30 minutes, players in the room, and corrections being made. High school doesn't give me that. I don't have our players during the school day, and once that final bell rings, the clock starts. Lift, meeting, practice, treatment, get them home. There's no lunch period to borrow, so I started looking at time I was already spending anyway. I'm going to watch practice film no matter what. It takes me about 20 minutes to go through the offensive tape, make my notes, and figure out what needs fixing tomorrow. Instead of watching it alone, then trying to recreate all of that the next afternoon in a room full of kids, I started recording the review itself. I pull up Huddle, turn on the screen recorder, and coach the tape exactly like the players were sitting next to me. Look at your second step here. Watch these 5 guys move together. Here's where the technique starts to break down. Here's the assignment correction. So that recording goes straight into Just Play, and now the film room is sitting there waiting for a player whenever he can actually get into it. There's an advantage buried in doing it this way that I didn't expect going in. In a normal film room with, let's say, 20 kids, the coach controls the pace, stop it, rewind it, make the point, move on. One kid maybe didn't quite get it. Another wanted to see the rep again. Somebody's still processing that last point while I've already moved on to the next one. Almost nobody's going to raise their hand and ask the whole room to wait. Now they don't have to. A player can pause it, rewind it, hear the same coaching point twice, 3 times, as many times as needed, and the guy next to him, who got it on the first look, doesn't have to sit through it again either. That's closer to a one-on-one film session than anything 20 kids in a room ever gave me. That's not just a hunch either. There's real research on this. A randomized study of 195 medical students found that simply adding pauses into an instructional video significantly improved how much they learned from it. A separate study went further, giving one group of college students specific guidance on when and how to pause and rewind controls strategically. That group didn't just do it better on a quiz right after watching, they remembered more days later too. Just handing someone the controls isn't automatically better. What helps is a viewer who knows what he's looking for and can control the pace around it, which is exactly what happens when a player rewinds his own second step 3 times because I told them that's the thing to watch for. One of our early reviews gave us a clean example of why that pacing matters on our end too. Going through our O-line tape, I kept landing on the same coaching point. Different player, different rep, same phrase, second step, second step, second step. That's useful for the player, and it's just as useful for me. If I'm saying the same thing over and over on film, that's telling me something about tomorrow. Maybe we don't understand it as well as I thought, or maybe the drill hasn't built the habit yet, or maybe we need to change how we're teaching that as coaches. Maybe that's exactly what tomorrow's individual period needs to be built around. This stopped being just a way to save meeting time. It became another feedback loop for us as a staff. None of this works if you're not filming practice in the first place. And if you're not doing it today, I think you're leaving a lot of teaching on the table. We're still building ours out. Our best angle will eventually come from a drone, and we're working on getting a member of our support staff certified so we can run that consistently. But we didn't wait for the perfect setup to start. On fields without a press box, we've put an iPad behind the offense. It's a player who's hurt and can't practice, but can still help. For what we're teaching on offense, that end zone view does a lot of work by itself. 5 linemen moving together, the tight end, the back, aiming points, footwork, whether the whole unit is actually fitting together the way it's drawn up. And there's research specifically in youth football that backs up why pairing that video with real coaching is important, not just filming for the sake of having film. A 2024 study in the Journal of Athletic Training put 32 youth football players through tackling instructions using different combinations of feedback: their own video, an expert model, a mix of both, or just verbal coaching. The players who got a combination of video and coaching feedback showed among the clearest improvement in safe tackling technique. That study wasn't run on high schoolers. The players were around 11 or 12, but the mechanism is the same one we're leaning on. It's not the video alone that teaches anything. It's the video with a coach's voice attached to it, pointing at exactly what to look for. That's the distinction that matters for us too. We're not handing a player a folder of clips and telling him to go watch it himself. He sees the rep and he hears the correction in the same breath. But dropping a video into just play doesn't mean anybody learned anything from it. And that's the next problem, and it's one we've come back to all season. Completion isn't enough. A check mark or the analytics that show me a player press play doesn't help me knowing that he processed a single thing he saw. So every film review ends in a simple quiz. A position group gets 1 or 2 specific questions tied to whatever actually came up in the day's film. For example, a question about the second step for the offensive line, or an aiming point for the backs, or a read progression for the quarterback. Then everybody, regardless of position, gets the same open-ended question, which is, in your own words, explain the key coaching points for your position from today's film. The footwork, aiming points, assignments, technique, whatever applies, and be specific. That's where I think the real learning happens, because I'm making a kid explain it back to me instead of just rewatching it. There's a well-established finding in learning research called the self-explanation effect. When a learner has to put an idea into his own words instead of simply seeing or hearing it again, he ends up understanding it more deeply. One of the classic experiments behind that finding used 8th graders, not just college students, so it's not a stretch to apply it to a 16-year-old. There's a real difference between a player writing, "I watched coach talk about my second step," and a player writing, "My second step needs to get into the ground here so I can get my hips and my leverage where they need to be." The second answer means he reconstructed the coaching point himself. The first one just means the video played. The quiz itself is doing more than checking a box too. Some of the strongest, most repeated findings in learning research are about retrieval. Pulling information back out of your own memory is a more powerful way to learn it than simply reviewing it again. A well-known set of experiments found that restudying material helped on a test given a few minutes later, but when the test came back 2 days or a week out, the group that had been quizzed on the material, not just reshown it, remembered significantly more. A large review of learning techniques years later rated practice testing as one of the small handful of genuinely high-value study strategies and found the effects hold up across ages and subjects. So instead of just watching it, check the box, move on, we're trying to build watch it, think about it, retrieve it, explain it, apply it. That's a completely different process, even though from the outside, it looks like there's a quiz at the end. There's one more question we ask every time, and it might be the most valuable one we've added. What do you still need clarification on? That's it. Tell us what you don't understand. For a coach, that's gold, because normally I don't find out a player's confused until the mistake happens live on the practice field or in a game. Now he's got a place to tell me first. Maybe part of the game plan doesn't make sense yet, or maybe he doesn't understand an adjustment, or that 2 calls are running together in his head. Maybe my explanation just wasn't as clear as I thought it was, and if 3 or 4 guys flag the same thing, it's not a coincidence, it's telling me something about how I taught it. That's formative assessment. Even though nobody in our building would call it that, there's a large review of feedback research, 435 studies of more than 61,000 learners that found feedback has real, meaningful effect on learning, and that the effect is strongest, specifically on cognitive and motor skill outcomes, which is most of what we're teaching. And going back further, one of the most cited reviews in education research looked at roughly 250 studies on formative assessment and reached a simple conclusion. When teachers get real information about what students actually understand, not what the teacher assumes they understand, and adjust their teaching because of it, achievement goes up. That's the exact loop we built without knowing there was a name for it. Teach it, ask it, find the gap, teach it again. After I record film review, I have a transcript. I run that through AI to help me spot the patterns faster. What did I keep repeating? What technical issue came up more than once? What does that tell us to emphasize tomorrow? I want to be clear about what we're using AI for. AI isn't deciding what our players need. It isn't doing the coaching. I already watched the film and made the corrections. It's just helping me process what I already know faster. It's the same thing on the player side. We download every quiz answer, every reflection, every clarification question, and run all of it through our transcription and AI to organize it quickly across the whole roster instead of reading 44 open-ended answers by hand every single night. That part of this isn't a learning science story, it's a staff capacity story. We're 6 coaches with 44 players between varsity and JV, and the honest question we're always asking is how we take the work we're already doing and make it move faster, not how do we add one more thing. I don't think this is really a story about finding another piece of technology. It's not, this is digital, so it must be better. A lot of what we ended up doing lines up with things researchers have studied for years. The video feedback, learner-controlled pacing, retrieval, self-explanation, formative assessment. We didn't invent any of that. We're just trying to figure out how those principles could survive the actual constraints of a high school football program with 6 coaches, 44 players, a shared locker room, weight room schedule, and players who need to be home at a reasonable hour on a school night. If you're a coach listening to this, here's the standard that I would offer you. If a piece of technology doesn't help you teach better or work more efficiently, you probably don't need it. We're already watching the film. Now the players get that same coaching, and we're already making corrections, but now those corrections are something a kid can go back to and revisit on his own time at his own pace. We're already asking players questions, but now we can see the pattern across 44 answers without spending the whole night sorting through them by hand. And we're already planning tomorrow's practice, but now we're planning it with better information than we had before. Once school starts, time is probably the most limited thing we have at the high school level. Our guys need football, but they also need school, the weight room, dinner, homework, sleep, and I don't want good teaching to come at the cost of any of that. So instead of asking how much longer can we keep a kid in the building, we started asking a different question. How do we use the time we already have better? That's what the virtual film room bought us. A player leaves practice, goes home, eats, gets his schoolwork done, and when he's ready, the film room is still there. My voice is in it, so are the reps, the corrections, the questions. And the next day, we walk out to the field already knowing more about what actually landed than we did the year before we had any of this. That's what Just Play has turned into for us. Not just a place to store the playbook, but the platform that connects the whole teaching cycle. The install's there, the practice film is there, the coaching's there, the quizzes, reflection, clarification questions, and the reports we need to plan tomorrow. All of it lives in one place. So for a 6-man staff, that's what makes any of this realistic. We don't have more hours in the day or more coaches. And now that school's back, we definitely don't have more time with our players. So we make the time we do have count. The film room didn't disappear when school started. We just moved it. This has been One Play at a Time, presented by Just Play on the Coach and Coordinator Network. Be sure to follow all we're doing and get the link to all of our content in the series in the show notes. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.